Hey everyone, it's Schmuckles. Don't mind my hair, I just woke up. Today we're going to talk about some new news for Chapter 24 that's kind of been going around for the past couple days. I wanted to make a new video that kind of summarizes everything we've learned since my last video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want content like this recommended to you by YouTube. Also, I stream on Twitch on Wednesday and Sunday nights. The link for that is in the description below. So tonight's actually a stream night. I'm streaming right now on Twitch. So the first new piece of information that we got today was that they posted a second teaser. It wasn't ever posted on the Dead by Daylight official account. It was posted on DBD Germany though, and there's no comments allowed on these teasers anymore. So that further confirms that all these leaks are true and we actually have some more information based on the teaser today. So if we take a little bit of a closer look at the teaser from today, we can see that there's a building right there that kind of matches the map leak that I got last week. Now that's not actually confirmed, but there was a leak that was emailed to me last week from an anonymous email that kind of said like this is the main building and it looks very similar to this building. So I really feel that this is the main building that we're looking at right here. And even the text down there references this place called the Garden of Joy, and we know that from the leak that we talked about in the last video, this is the name that's on the offering for the new map. Again, when they released this teaser, they didn't know that all these leaks would have happened. I saw this post from this user on Twitter, and this house is actually very similar to the Shepherd family house from the Silent Hill Homecoming. It really does look like this building from Silent Hill. The main part of the rooftop on both houses kind of has like this triangular shape, and it looks like there's two towers on the right side of the house that kind of look similar as well. Obviously for Silent Hill, it's more of a cylindrical shape, and then for like the Garden of Joy, it's like a rectangular prism. Also on this teaser, we can kind of see like what looks like a garden house or like a little like greenhouse or something like that. And in this leak that we talked about last video, it could really just be this structure. So we're seeing the interior of that structure in this teaser. It looks pretty similar to like the greenhouse-like area that we see on Crotus Pren Asylum. So the intention of this second teaser could have been to reveal the map to the community. When looking at this house in this teaser, it kind of reminds me of the Psycho house from Alfred Hitchcock's movie Psycho from 1960. Like, take a look at the side-by-side comparisons here, right? Like, this looks pretty darn similar, and even the motel there, we know based on the leaks from the other day that there's a motel, or at least that there's a sign for motel with the main lobby, so we feel like there might be a motel on the new map. So realistically, the new map could be heavily based on the 1960s Psycho Bates Motel. Psycho is actually my dream license, so I'm really excited to see if this is what actually comes in. A lot of people think that the Thompson house on the original map, Coldwind Farm, is heavily based on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Like, Hillbilly and Coldwind Farm came in together because Behavior wasn't able to get the Leatherface license right away. So they've been known to base their original creations off of licensed content before, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at here. If there's a motel and a giant house, it looks really similar to the Psycho Bates Motel. Like, we even saw concept art pretty early on for the reworked Thompson house, and it looked pretty darn similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. So they're using the licensed content as kind of like a blueprint or a starting point for a lot of their original creations. Another thing that I noticed is that the new killer looks a lot like this licensed version of this monster from Stephen King's Dreamcatcher. There's a lot of really crazy scenes in this movie that was based on the Stephen King novel, where this monster looks pretty darn similar to the new killer that's coming in for Chapter 24. In the opening credits of the movie, it says that it's based on the novel by Stephen King. Stephen King is closely attached to this film. In the movie, we kind of get our first look at this monster. We can see that it has like the teeth sort of like this. This is actually a baby version of the killer, but it looks pretty similar to the Dredge. So I'm kind of wondering if Behavior like heavily based the new killer based on this licensed creature here. I mean, it looks kind of terrifying, and it kind of looks like a shapeshifter of some sort, and maybe the new killer is a shapeshifter himself. We're not really sure. And maybe it'll even move similarly to this monster that we see in this movie. And again, this is an infant version of the creature. There's actually an adult version that comes in at the end of the film. We can kind of see like this crab-like arm from this giant shapeshifter monster. And the characters at the end of the movie try to kind of confront this creature, and it reveals like a giant mouth with like vertical teeth going down just like the Dredge. And even the eyes, like I feel like there's eyeballs that we've seen on the Dredge, and it kind of matches in the same spot as this creature here. There's even a part of the film that looks like it could be like a Mori-like animation. So if Behavior's based the original creation on this licensed monster, maybe the Mori will look similar to this. This movie was made in 2003, so it's not the greatest effects ever, but I think that the new killer's animations could mechanically work similar to this creature. Like, this new killer pretty much looks like one of Stephen King's monsters, and I find that really interesting. Like, maybe Behavior's trying to catch Stephen King's attention or kind of show Stephen King like, hey, your monsters would work perfectly in Dead by Daylight. Look at this original monster that looks similar to one of your monsters from your books. The whole design of the new killer for this giant anniversary event that's coming up very soon could be like a big marketing plan to really just get Stephen King's attention. This chapter is going to be a huge anniversary event next week. There's not really going to be like a ton of surprises, but it's still going to make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention. So maybe Behavior's trying to get Stephen King's attention and pretty much say like, this monster that looks pretty similar to your monster is fitting perfectly and everybody loves it. It's not really one of the more known monsters from Stephen King's universe, so maybe maybe that's on purpose too if they're trying to get like giant IPs like Pennywise, Carrie, or Jack Torrance. So I wonder what the actual visual of this killer is going to do in the way of trying to get Stephen King IPs into this game. I'm pretty sure the Deathslinger was called the Gunslinger in the game files, and then when it came out, the killer was obviously called the Deathslinger. Stephen King wrote a book that has Gunslinger in the title. The Chapter 24 killer looks really similar to the Dreamcatcher monster, so maybe they try to get their original creations to be a little bit more like Stephen King's monsters just so they can try and get his IPs into the game. It's really interesting because there's been a lot of new news for every really hyped license recently. Like, this is kind of a pathway that maybe Stephen King IPs could come in later. We know in this video there were new pathways for Alien, Predator, Candyman, and Chucky. Like, there's huge updates to their licensing situations for Dead by Daylight. If you haven't watched that video, I would highly recommend watching this video. It just kind of goes to show that we could get some of these really hyped IPs within the next 2 to 3 years in Dead by Daylight. Also on May 3rd, Matthew Cote said, "Come join us, it's going to be a party. Also, I may have a surprise for you." And then Matthew Cote posted this on May 28th. That right there, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And it's kind of referencing his teaser to Funko Pops from last year, which we never really heard any information on Funko Pops for about 12 months. But someone contacted Polyester on Twitter and said, "I was at my local GameStop and I asked the clerk if there's going to be Dead by Daylight Funkos. And he said it's not on the system, but he heard holiday 2022 is when they release." Take that with a grain of salt, but maybe Matthew Cote is going to announce that Funko Pops are coming at the end of the year this year. We know that this is going to be the new roadmap on May 17th when all of this content comes out. And the look at the store could really be Matthew Cote announcing this Funko Pop news. Going back to that first teaser, I also heard new information on Twitter from Matt. There's a reference to the auto stamper, which is related to the Doctor's lore. It's the Doctor's mentor in Larry's Memorial Institute, so some people think that the Dredge is going to be tied to one of these unseen characters in the Dead by Daylight lore. And Adrian pointed out to me on Twitter that one of the perks associated with the Dredge directly has a quote from Otto. So it seems like it's all pretty closely tied together in the Dead by Daylight lore. Both of these characters are going to be tied to unseen characters in the DBD lore. And by both of these characters, I mean the Dredge and Hattie. So the most recent Guess the Sound audio file on the Dead by Daylight Twitter was a sound effect of the hatch. But do you remember when the sound effect of the main room of Larry's Memorial Institute was played like this before on Twitter too? To me, that kind of connects that there's going to be some sort of like audio or tape recording thing that is like a new item or somehow tied to the new chapter. We kind of touched on this in a previous video, but I feel like the fact that is all tied to Larry's and the Doctor's lore kind of cements this idea. I kind of made a bad call out in the last teaser analysis video. This tape right here is actually a cassette tape. It's not a VHS tape. So it has nothing to do with Sadako, and it definitely has to do with the new content. The number 24 there could be revealing that this is a chapter 24 teaser, but also it could be revealing that the PTB is coming on the 24th. Like, we know that the reveal is going to be happening on the 17th, but maybe 1 week later on the 24th is when the PTB is going to launch. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Before all the giant crazy leaks started to happen, I was going to release this killer potential video, and it was going to go over the possibilities for this new locker-based power that we knew was coming for the chapter 24 killer. I got a lot of like Boogeyman and Babadook footage to kind of put together this piece, but I never released it because the leaks came out and revealed what the killer looked like. But I still think that there's some valuable speculations that I can make based on the Boogeyman movies. A lot of times when the Boogeyman is trying to come out of a closet, the characters in the movies put up these boards and kind of like nail the closet shut. And I wonder if the survivors are going to have an option to do this kind of thing with the new killer. I wonder if there's going to be like wood planks and nails next to every single locker. That way the survivors could board up each locker and the killer can't really teleport. It'd be an interesting survivor counterplay to the new killer's power. And I still think that would make sense since the Dredge kind of does operate like a boogeyman of some sort. I've also seen some crazy things that the boogeyman has done in those movies. Like, he can kind of pull people into closets and use his supernatural powers. And I wonder if a Mori could look something like this, where they pull people into the locker and then that person is never seen again. It's really interesting to speculate and to think about. Anyways, that does it for this video. Goodbye.